Okay, if we're all ready to go.
I think so.
Okay, thank you. We'll call to order the Corporation of the Town of Kirkland Lake regular meeting of council electronically via Zoom, May 18th, 2021, beginning at 4:40. We'll start with a moment of silence. Okay, and approval of the agenda.
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held on May 18th, 2021, beginning at 4:40 p.m. be approved as circulated to all members of council, with the removal of bylaw 21-038 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Culver Park Operating Authority.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Yes, Councillor Owen.
Yes, I'm just going to say now, I do not believe I have any, but if I come across something in the budget that I believe is a pecuniary interest, I will declare at that time.
Thank you, sir. Item number 4, petitions and delegations. None noted. Item number 5, acceptance of minutes and recommendations.
Moved by Casey Owens, seconded by Lad Chaba. Be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the following meetings. Minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 4th, 2021.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item number 6.1, proposed 2021 budget, Studholme interim CAO.
Okay, as they say, proposed 2021 budget. This isn't going to be the final budget you see, but it's a good step in the right direction. So you have my sheet here, which is pretty technical in regards to where we're going. A couple of little changes in regards to this, and so that's where I'm going to read from my sheet that I prepared there this afternoon. So like community services is coming in, as you can see, at 0%. So, and that's what those little columns, somebody asked me, what are those little columns where it says percentage increase? And you'll see that sometimes it's a plus, sometimes it's a minus, and that all depends whether whether Bonnie is hitting a negative, a plus, or wherever she may be at. So overall, community service comes in at 0% in operating dollars. So as far as her operating dollars goes, she meets the requirement of the board, which is 1.5. One of the councilors raised that, I don't know who that was, up to 4%. So anyways, I don't get a smile. So anyways, and she also had some reserves, and you'll see the reserves on the attached sheet. So that's the attached sheet you should be looking at. I'm assuming they got all these documents, eh? So you would have seen that, and that would have been her sheets there. So I include everything in there from parks, Joe Mavernack, cemetery, library, museum, etc. And so all told, she's looking at 292,487, but because of reserves, so on and so forth, she's looking at an increase in her cost of $73,800, or an increase of 2.2% in community services. So we're hitting where council wants to be. Development services, of course, that's where we're looking at in regards to where Wilf and Richard is. And so anyways, development services comes in with a decrease of 12%. And you see that, I guess, on page 6, page 7. 1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, page 4. you see a decrease of 12% in operating. However, they do have some capital adding up to $186,000. And so anyways, one way or another, they're looking at a decrease of 2.7%. So once again, so we're still at somewhere around 0% to look at that aspect of it. And if you have any questions, put up your hands and stop me, or else I'm just going to continue to run it along. Administration comes in with 11% increase in cost. They're looking at capital costs of $50,000. Then we are looking at a 14% increase. We're expecting more, but just waiting for one funding arrangement. So that aspect is the MIS system. The MIS system, we're waiting for funding to come in from the government in regards to that. We haven't received that yet, but we're expecting that'll be a positive call for us. And what that will do is that will ensure that we can hit the 14% increase that we have for administration. All right. The next one is governance, which is mayor and council. So mayor and council is looking at a 16% decrease in operating dollars as no increase is considered. So overall, they're looking at a small decrease of $166,603. Now, what we've done there is that I have cut down the amount of money that we're spending on using for integrity commissioners. You know, I've had that word with you before. If you continue to want to use integrity commissioners, well, go right ahead and use them. I don't know where I'm going to find that money from, but the thing is that it is money that we need to think about, and do we really need to do that? You know, so right at the moment, you know, you do have a CAO here that has basically seen everything, come across his desk in a number of years, and can provide you with some input. I may be a day late getting back to you, but I will get back to you. If I told you, I will get back to you. And we don't need to involve the integrity commissioner unless we get to a point where what I'm saying is not agreeing with what you're thinking and how we're moving forward. So anyways, that is the only aspect with the governance of mayor and council. And that is one reason why we're looking at a decrease in the mayor and council under governance. Protective services, that's our fire and police. So our fire comes in at 1% for operating dollars. However, they are looking at $50,000 in capital budget, which will be an increase of 3.8%. So that is a small an increase in regards to protective services. And so that's where we are with that. And your fire department is at a 2% increase. And most of that, excuse me, is tied up in the contracted services. Contracted services is what they got, and that's what they'll do. Yes, fire ahead.
Okay, do we have any more back pay issues coming in? Arbitration settlements from historic arbitration settlements coming in?
Well, unless you guys know something you haven't told me, but I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, no, I'm just asking because if we do, that increase may be higher, and I'm not sure whether we do or whether we don't, but we probably should check into it.
Well, I'll check into it, but I'm assuming that if council's aware of something, they should have told the CAO that there is an issue, and I will check into it, but just
I just said I don't know. We did on the last publication of the wages. It had an arbitration settlement in it. And I know from covering council, often the arbitration settlements came in 1, 2, 3 years. That's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure we don't get a surprise.
I can speak on that if I may.
Sure.
So we have dealt with all of the past settlements and awards, and we have recently finalized a new collective agreement. So the only payments outstanding would be retroactive payments.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I think Eugene had his hand up too. Did you, Eugene?
Yeah, I was along the line that that Rick had, the payments last year that were made. I think there was a whole bunch of back pay last year, and now you got a 1% increase on that. I don't know, is that reflected last year's back pay payments, or is that reflected on the 2019, or I guess the 2020 budget? Was that reflected in there? And then is it? I'm trying to get my head around having this money that we had to pay out last year, and then seeing a 1% increase. Just not sure where that's reflected. Maybe Cassandra can help me with that.
So typically retroactive payments, they impact the budget in the year that they're paid. The reason for the large payment that I think you're referring to, it was just something that was set onto the side too long, and it was dealt with a little too late than it should have been. So that's why you would have seen those payments come out last year. This year, we do have a few retroactive payments, but they won't be nearly as substantial as the ones from last year.
It was almost $1 million, wasn't it, last year?
I don't recall exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. If it was $1 million, I would have liked to know that, but since nobody's informed me of these things, I don't know this. So anyway, so that's where you are with protective services. So we're fine with that. Okay, moving on to public works. Public works is looking at a 2% decrease in operating, but an increase in the levy of $259,777, resulting in a 4.7 increase in cost. So you're looking at an increase in cost due to capital expenditures. And so we are at that point where, with public works, because that is our biggest capital project. However, we're only at 4.7% increase over where they were last year. And considering where everybody else is in the picture, we're still well within the 4% or the 4%. That is there. Then we get into Tech Pioneer residents. So Tech Pioneer residents is that the sheet that you probably have is probably my older sheet, where you would have been looking at revenues of $1,885,738. I'm assuming that's what you would have had.
Yep.
Okay. So anyways, those figures are a little out of whack. And the reason why they're out of whack is because, and I didn't find this out till yesterday, is that Tanya has prepared two budgets. One budget is if she doesn't receive any additional COVID funding, but we know that it is coming. But right at the moment, we can't guarantee that. So what she's saying is right at the moment, if we don't receive any more COVID funding, if we don't receive anything that allows us to increase our staff, even though we're supposed to, then what we'll be looking at is a total net budget of $752,111. So what that does, that brings down the cost of Tech Pioneer residents basically to the same cost that we had in 2020. So what she's going to do is operate the budget as if it was 2020, and we'll operate under that consideration until the government comes back to us and gives us some direction of when they're going to give us or inform us when we're going to be able to collect that money on COVID. So her and I discussed that yesterday, and we decided that, we can't put money into the budget that, for one, we're not necessarily going to spend it, and two, until we get the money coming in from the government, we're not going to, say, well, this is where we like to be, but this is where we are. So anyway, so what we're going to work with is the $752,111 as our net operating cost, which is the difference between, of course, your revenues and your expenditures. So what that does is that will, you're probably looking at somewhere around a 2.6% decrease in operating. And then if you add the $10,800 after asking for a replacement, refrigerator replacement, then you're looking at a decrease of 1.3 in their capital from last year, which is extremely good, because when she brought this to me, I'm going, how the heck am I going to explain this to council? So anyways, when we had our conversation yesterday, I kind of breathed a sigh of relief and said, oh, okay, now this is making a little bit more sense. So anyways, so that's where we're at with our different departments. And then there's one other, which is our outside charges, which is the Temiskaming Health Unit and the DSAB. And all told, we're looking at a 1% increase from those 5 areas. So, which is right underneath Tech Pioneer residents in my explanation to you. And so that's what we're looking at, is a small 1% increase. So overall, the total town operating is, you're looking at a small decrease, or a small decrease of 0.02%. However, when you throw all your capital in, all the capital that we have in there, you're looking at a 3.2% increase. So once again, we're under the 4%. We're, we're over 1.5, but we're under 4. So we're in the ballpark where council wanted us to be in regards to moving this forward. And what I'm trying to say is that, I'll be back on June 1st, which is our next meeting of council. And what I'm hoping to do is I'll have these figures confirmed. Any changes I have to make, I'll make them at that point. And I'll work with my my department heads in regards to how are we going to do this. So, our water and wastewater summary, I was told that you guys made a decision earlier in the year that the increase in water and wastewater would be 0%. So I've kept to that. And what we've done with that is that we've peeled out of the waterworks and wastewater reserves to cover that decision that council made back in February, I believe it was. So, anyways, which doesn't leave us a lot, but it does leave us with some. And I haven't worked out any, I shouldn't say worked out, I haven't depleted any of the reserves to a point where they're 0. They all have money inside them. And once we get our report back from the auditors, which should be sometime next week, then I'll be able to update where we're at with our reserves at the moment, and where we're going to be in regards to moving things forward. So, so I've been working hard in trying to hit that, be under 4%, which we have hit. And, we're trying to move things forward in a progressive fashion with where we're at in regards to our budget. So, if you look, and I'm assuming, did I get my little sheet,
So the first one was operating, and this is what's next. Is it that?
Yeah. So they didn't get my little scribble on the side, which is fine. Okay, so what we've done is I'm going back to this sheet, which is the multi-year capital forecast, which is the long sheet in the documents. And I just want to run over a few things just so that you have an understanding of where we're coming up with some of our dollars. So, the multi-year capital forecast for most of our departments, the money's either coming out of a little bit of COVID funding they received, it's coming out of a couple of reserves that we have, and that basically sums up majority of our funding arrangements. Now, the only exception to that is our MIS funding. A good portion of that, like probably close to 177,000, will come out of a funding arrangement that we have submitted to the government. The government keeps coming back and asking us additional questions, which indicates to us that we're going to be positive in getting that fund. We certainly hope so, because if we're not, then we'll have a different meeting on June 2nd. But the thing is that, you know, we'll be, I think we're going to be where we need to be to pay for that. And, you know, and since we've decided that we're cutting the ties with the hospital at the end of, excuse me, at the end of July, then we need to make sure that we have the equipment we have here, and we need to get out there and hire somebody to help out Dan in regards to implementing, following up, and the MIS or the IT program. So now when you get into the project, the Public Works Department, they have a little different issue because they look at all the different programs we have, all the different reserves we have, and so on and so forth. And where do we go from there? So you see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different columns there, because we haven't put anything into sum of debt financing. So first of all, you have sum of government funding. So that's government funding that we have received. Government has given us thumbs up on that, and we're good to go. And that's roughly, you know, $2.27 million. So, which is a good positive thing. It helps us move our big projects along, and it helps us to continue to move stuff. Excuse me, I got to take a little drink of water here because I'm running out of. Okay, great. The next one is sum of gas tax fund. So the only thing that's in there that I'm not 100% sure on is the 71,000 or 72,000 in regards to gas tax fund. So not 100% sure on that one, but the other amounts I am sure about, and we'll look at that. However, you know, if the money is not in the sum of gas tax fund, I'll talk to whoever gets to hold of me from the provincial government and see where can I put that money. So I'm trying to squeeze it into summary of gas tax fund, hoping that nobody sees that, but I'm not 100% sure whether that is 100% correct. And I just want to make that clear to everybody that, you know, we've done this, but we're looking at it as a, let's hope so, but we're not 100% sure. The next one is the sum of tax levy. So these are all our projects that are not water related. And so we can use tax levy in regards to this. So all told, that came to $259,777, which you'll recall, I did mention that figure when I was going over the public works section in regards to our operating and capital budget. Okay. The one after that is sum of waterworks. So these are our waterworks budget. The total for that is $548,000. So these are all projects that deal with our waterworks system. And then the sum of wastewater is the same distance, but it's more involved with the sewer aspect of it. And you're looking at $827,000. And then you have the sum of other reserves. So these are reserves that we're using in regards to, in regards to moving things forward. And so the biggest project you see there is $2.1 million. And that comes out of the OCIF. So I put in the $608,000 that we have indicated we're getting this year. And so that one is the one where we're down to almost nothing. We're down to what, $30,000, $31,000 for that one, which is not good, but at least it's an option. And we still need to use that money to complete those projects. The only exception to that would be if we can't get it all done this year and we have to pay for some of next year's budget, then that will give us a little bit of break there. And then some of the other are where we're looking for. You'll see KL Gold, $500,000. So KL Gold has indicated to us that they'd be willing to give us a minimum of $500,000. They haven't said that this project is out of the question. This is their project. This is to make sure that number 4 shaft is, has the proper water and the contents going into number 4 shaft. So we figured they'd be all excited in regards to helping that out. And that would be a tremendous benefit to KL Gold and a tremendous benefit to us because we need that $500,000 to finish off that project. So, and you got a couple of little small amounts down below, which are insurance claims. So anyways, so that's where we're at with our reserves. And so every reserve has dollar figures in it, and every reserve is moving forward. And so, we're quite pleased with that. I've also included into you reserve fund projections. Once again, these are projections based on what we know at the moment, and we haven't got everything in there from the government as of yet. So like the only thing I put in there is the OCIF for 608,000, and the other ones, there'll be some other dollars going up above, but there won't be a lot of money going in there. Now, once we get COVID dollars, then there will obviously be some more dollars in there, but right at the moment, this is what we know, this is what we're working under, and this is how we're going to operate. So we'll operate fairly well, and then we'll go from there. Yes, lad.
I just want to know with the sale of Hockey Heritage, where would that money be going to?
That is an extremely great question. Oh, you expect me to have an answer for you on that one?
Just maybe you could help. I don't know. You're talking about reserve, so I just want to know.
That money's not coming to us until July. And
yes.
I'm not here in July.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask in July then to whoever is.
I'll give whoever succeeds me the heads up that question will be coming to them in July sometime when we actually close off that deal for Hockey Heritage North.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's 700 and whatever it is, $96,000 or $86,000 or whatever it is. And obviously it's got to go somewhere. And I wouldn't necessarily spend it this year unless you absolutely need to. I'd be putting it over into at least 2022 and go from there. That'd be my recommendation to whoever replaces me. Okay, because we all have to realize that there are challenges behind us and there's challenges ahead of us. And we're more concerned about the challenges ahead of us because those are the ones that we need to accomplish and you guys need to accomplish, especially since you probably want to get reelected and so on and so forth. So your 2022 budget has got to look positive. It's got to be in a good state. And so we're set up pretty good for that. And we're looking like, you guys will be in good shape moving into next fiscal year. So, okay. And then moving on is my last three, which is just where we're sitting with our reserves, which matches up with this sheet, as you can probably see. And there's nothing really there to mention that because all I've done is taken where it says December 31st, 2020, put that onto my other sheet, and then transfer all my money from one sheet into that sheet. So now the last thing that I do have is, of course, these are all the sheets that the finance department likes to get because they're all our sheets broken down per department. And so, so they get all these lovely sheets, and they're very small printed, but that's what they use to implement, to put into, excuse me, their spreadsheet and moving from there. And the other aspect that we have in there is, of course, our water and waterworks accounts, and to make sure, and they're all balanced off as you see. I think I included that in there as one of my sheets. And so the thing is, oh yes, on the back here of this sheet, there's your, that was the all my reports for my different departments. And on the last page is, of course, there's water and waterworks. And as you see, it's down to zero. So the thing is that that's what we're looking for, and that's what we're working on. So that's all I have to say about the budget, and I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you. Councillor Ivanov?
Yeah, and my recollection of the meeting in February was that we looked at a water a zero for that interim water rate increase, I think, for the beginning of the year. But I don't know if we had I don't think we expected to get a zero for the year. And I just want to have a concern when you start using up the reserves, because you won't have any money left in there. And eventually it's going to be back to a 4 or 5% increase in water rates. And that was, I think, our concern back in earlier in the year. I don't think that it was supposed to be a zero increase for the entire year. And I would, maybe somebody else at council remembers, but I'm pretty sure that was our thinking at that time, that we were looking at maybe a modest increase later on in the year.
Councillor Owen?
Yeah, I don't want to get in the same bind that we found ourselves in, where with taxes, there was years and years of 0% increase, and then all of a sudden, guess what? You got to pay the piper. I certainly could live with a 1% water rate increase. I don't remember, Eugene, quite honest with you, I don't remember what we had decided earlier. But
Rick, I think it was just a simple zero at that time, because we didn't know what was going to happen with water rates. And now that we've had some time to see where we're going and we're using up reserves, I'd more like to see a 2% increase, and then at least it's in line with what happened, because I think we had an 8% first year in because we were short of money. And I just don't want that to happen again. And that could be our future if we don't do something now.
it's just that the most complaints I receive is about the water, the cost of water. That's why I said 1%. 2% may be more realistic. You know, it's basically inflation price, you know. And actually it's probably under inflation when you consider the effect the pandemic's had on so many materials. But I think Eugene is absolutely right. If we go with zero increase, we're going to end up back having to do 6, 8, 10% increase to catch up, because those funds, as we know, have to be self-sustaining. We can't dip into tax money, and we don't want to borrow and pay the cost of borrowing unless we absolutely have to. So I could certainly live with a 1 or 2% increase. I don't think I'd go higher than 2% though.
Thank you. I just, we'll circle back to that if you don't mind, gentlemen. I do have a question about the reason why we don't have 2020 actuals reported. Is that because the figures are with the auditors currently? We're kind of accustomed to having those figures available to us when we talk about budget time. So is that correct, sir?
If you're saying sir to me, then yes.
Yes, sir.
That we're waiting, the auditors should have that back to us, a complete audit done by next week.
Okay.
So
we'll be seeing those on the June 1st meeting?
So yeah, we all ready for June 1st. Do I have some figures up here that I've talked to Sherry about and so on and so forth? Yes, I have, but I'm willing to share that out in the public. No, I'm not. So it's just, we have to ensure that our T's are crossed, our I's are dotted, and before we release that out to the public.
Absolutely, I respect that. Thank you. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor Adams. Nope. You're still on mute.
Excellent job bringing it down to 3.2. Good work, staff. Certainly, I was the one that was pushing for 1.5 as the consumer price index. So I see some numbers of proposals for cuts in the capital budget, only because I don't see the accommodation tax coming back as a conversation at this meeting, even though it was requested. And I would hate to put the burden on ratepayers rather than putting the burden on 2 hotels in our community. So I would like to propose that we get rid of the backhoe for $175,000, as well as the new 2021 half-ton pickup for $50,000. Those are items just specifically funded by the levy and not funded from anywhere else. And I don't want to put this on the ratepayers when there's businesses that like gyms that are going to ask for a 3.2% rate increase and they haven't even opened their doors for business. So those are the ones I like to stand out for, and those 2 items removed can get me into that percentage that I would like to see. So whatever the process is to put that towards a vote.
Any further comments? Yes, Don, please go ahead.
I want to say, to put that to a vote, you would have to do that at next council meeting on the June 1st. And we can do a vote at that point in time in regards to those particular comments. But I hear what you're saying.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Owen.
Yes, hopefully our fleet management gets into place very quickly, because when we're looking at vehicles, we need to look at what they're costing us for repairs, and we don't have that information.
Well, I do to a certain degree.
Well, we're supposed to put a fleet management thing. It's supposed to be in the works, and it'd make it a lot easier for council. We could see exactly how much each vehicle is costing. Sometimes, and I noticed this happened once before, where the oldest vehicle in one department's fleet was the one that was the most economic to run, and they wanted to replace the oldest one, and it didn't make sense from day-to-day operations. So hopefully that software or whatever will be in place before the next budget. Also, the cemetery has operated quite nicely with the garden tractor, lawn tractor, whatever you call it, that they have now. We're not in a financial position to be buying Cadillacs, so I don't see any reason. And again, it'd be nice if we had the repair bills or whatever, because I might change my mind completely. I don't see the reason to replace that. And the money allotted for the Joe Mavernack sign, there's already over $6,000 in that account. There's a donation of $7,100. That's close to $14,000. If you can't get a sign that says Joe Mavernack Community Complex for $14,000, there's something wrong. I mean, again, it'd be nice to buy the Cadillac sign. It's interactive and all the rest of it, but we got to do what's best for the ratepayers. And I was told the sign was needed because people didn't know what the building was. So I'm just making those suggestions. The backhoe too. I mean, if we could get the repair records on that, like, I know the town has 2 backhoes. I know last year they asked for a backhoe to be replaced and we said no. And hey, if we can avoid spending that money, I'm all with you, Patrick. But without the repairs, without what we know we spent on it, it's kind of arbitrary of us just to say, cut it from the budget. And so I would like some additional information, and I'd like additional information on all the vehicles that are being replaced. Because if they're not costing us a lot of money to operate, why should we go buy a new one? We don't have to have brand new vehicles. We have to have vehicles that are reliable and that are safe. So for me as a counselor, I need that information to make a more informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Ms. Sackrider.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to Council. I can comment on both of those items for a bit more clarification. So the first one is for the sign. There will really be absolutely no, minimal or no cost to the taxpayer on that. The Mavernack family has come in with a maximum donation of up to $7,500. We're looking at a total sign cost of probably around $8,000. So if anything, the cost to the levy would be $500. It may even be a little bit less than that. So we have to include that as a capital item in the capital budget because the total cost is over the $5,000 threshold,
Okay.
but the cost to the taxpayer is teeny tiny.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Sackrider. I
other-
felt guilty even bringing it up, but as counselors, we got to look for savings, right?
Absolutely, and I'm pleased to provide.
I
any
can't tell somebody I'm going to cut off the water because we don't have the pipes. But anyways, thank you very much. I feel so much better now. In fact, I'm smiling.
The other one I can comment on is the cemetery zero turn. So we do have a lawn tractor that has to be replaced out there. It is out of service. We would like to replace it with a zero turn because we get 50% better cutting, more increase in what we can cut. We have cut back by a student with the goal of getting a zero turn. So we have two options. One is a capital outlay of just over 12,000 for the zero turn, or in the operating, we'll need to purchase a regular style lawn tractor, which are coming in around $3,500, but it's plus the wages of a student. So it's actually the cost would be more. So it is kind of a trade-off. So either our operating is going to go up by about, we're probably about 13, or our capital at about 12. We will pay off that capital in less than a year, which is a huge return on investment. I'm always looking at if we can pay off capital in less than 10, it's a good purchase. We can do it in the same year. So that's just a bit more information before you make a decision on that one.
Okay, I withdraw that one too. And I think I just did you a favor, Ms. Sackrider, because you got to explain to the whole world how you're saving us money. So good for you.
Anytime I can do that, I will.
Good for me. I just look at dollars. And that's what I'm saying about the history of repairs as well. I mean, I had no idea that was out of service, right? Oh, well, you may have sent that to us, but I didn't see it.
Thanks, Rick. Ms. Sackrider, can you refresh our memory? How long does that kind of equipment last as far as usability and insurability within the municipality?
So we have not owned a zero turn for a long period of time. We have two already. So we have one that we're using in the parks, one that we're using with all of the boulevards, and this would be the third. So the first one we purchased was, I believe, 2017, the last one last year. We're getting great use out of it. We're maintaining it. You know, I'm hoping we're going to get 10 years out of them, but I mean, that's probably my uneducated guess. Perhaps it could be longer.
Yes, excellent. Nope, thank you. I'll take the educated guess for sure. Any further comments or questions? Perfect. So I believe we've given Don some good feedback on this that he can bring back June 1st. So thank you very much, sir. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So the motion is moved by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CAO-009M entitled 2021 Operating and Capital Budget be received, and that staff be directed to implement changes put forward by council and make the appropriate changes to the 2021 budget and supporting documents.
Excellent. All in favor? Unanimous. Perfect. Moving on. Item 6.2, aerial fire truck, Rob Adair, Fire Chief.
Sorry, I broke up there. Were you talking to me?
Yes, you're up.
Council, the aerial stopped working, and we had a technician come take a look at it. The parts and labor are going to be upwards of $50,000. So it's a 33-year-old truck. I'd like to be able to see what's out there for that price, so we could buy a newer truck instead of putting that money into the old truck.
So my first question would be, what would a brand new aerial truck be?
You're looking at least $1 million.
Okay, so knowing that a new truck is $1 million, and you're saying that we should spend 50,000, looking, what quality are we really going to get out of that comparable amount, honestly?
Well, I did a quick look, and there's one that's 3 years newer for that 50,000.
30 years old for 50,000?
It's still going to be, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we paid about 50,000 for the one we've had. It hasn't lasted that long, and it didn't fit in the fire hall. So I'm a little skeptical that you can get a decent piece of machinery for $50,000. That's not like, I'm just skeptical. I think in another 3 years, you'll be back again asking for another 50,000. And I think, I hate spending money, but I think there are certain things that, that we may have to look at a higher figure to get something that's going to serve the community longer. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, that we, by fire code or law or whatever, we have to have an aerial truck?
It all comes down to the fire rating for the town. The fire underwriters would like us to have an aerial, and that gives us a fire protection rating, and then everybody's insurance is based on what our fire protection rating is.
Okay, so if we don't have an aerial, every business and every house, their fire insurance goes up.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there's benefit for the ratepayers there. Thank you.
Councillor Owens.
So according to the documents we have a main pumper that's a 1998. We've got a second line pumper that's a 2003, and our aerial truck is a 1988, give or take. So at one point, all these vehicles in the next few years are going to have to be replaced, otherwise they're out of compliance, right?
We don't, according to underwriters, you don't get any credit for one that's older than 30 years old.
Okay, so but our two mainline apparatus are will be over 20 years old within the next 2 years.
Number one already is.
Yeah, it's a 19. Yeah. So is there a way to combine? Well, I've looked online. There's different stuff, and it can lead you into different directions when you start looking at fire trucks and whatever. But can you combine a pump and an aerial and go newer and kill two birds with one stone?
You probably could. The only trouble with that is if you're making that your first line pumper, you're driving that bigger truck around on the streets of Kirkland Lake, and it's probably not going to last as long as a regular pumper.
Okay. Does it have to be like? I mean, I've seen some. There was some on Fort. I'm not sure if it was Fort Gary or doesn't. It's a 6-wheel instead of 10. Does that make a difference?
No. Part of shopping around, I'd like to be able to, like the current one we have is 100. The aerial is 100 feet. We only need to be able to reach the tallest building. So we could probably get away with a 75-footer. And ideally that'd be nicer because then it would actually fit in the hall here instead of having to be stored at physical services.
Will the floor support it?
If we park it in the wash bay.
Okay.
Is that somehow?
Yes, Councillor Owen.
I would just like to suggest, because we're going to end up talking around in circles forever here, that we authorize the fire chief to go out, to shop around, see what's available, ideally get the smaller aerial truck, and come back to council with prices and years of the truck and hours of service or mileage, whichever fire trucks use. And then we can make a decision on how we're going to finance it, whether or not we think it's a good deal. Does that work with you, Fire Chief?
Yeah, the only thing, it'd be nice to have maybe a maximum, if possible.
And that's hard for me to say because I've never bought a fire truck, so I don't know what price range. I know it's $1 million for a new one. That's all I know.
Councillor Shaba had his hand up.
Oh, yeah, I just, maybe I got it wrong, Fire Chief. Didn't you say you can, the 3-year-old one that you could buy for $50,000? Am I wrong? No?
It'd be 3 years newer than the one we have right now.
Oh, I see.
30 years.
So
Oh, okay.
years old, we'll lose the benefit of it.
So my second question would be that what's the highest building in town? Because you're talking about 75 feet or 100 feet. What's the highest? I mean, you know, I don't know how many stories that we have that's that high. Well, what would be it that we have to reach?
I would guess 25 feet there.
Okay.
What about Park Lane?
Stories.
What about the Park Lane?
That's
25
probably,
Tweedsmuir is six stories.
Is it? Well,
Yeah.
microtel? No.
it's not any
That's all
taller.
street.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Madam Clerk, who is the, oh, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, no, I think along the same line as Councilor Owen, I think we should get Rob to have a look at some fire trucks. And you know what? I would come back with some prices. And I don't think you need a maximum, but you know, because you might have to spend, I'm thinking a couple $100,000 if you can get something that's a lot better than spending $50,000. I don't think, you know, I hate to say go, you know, put a limit of 50 or 100,000, and then you say, well, I can get a 5-year-old truck for 200,000, and I can get a 20-year-old truck for 100,000. I mean, that's, you know, so you know, if you come back with some sort of a, you know, ball field and exactly what Rick is saying, you know, but the quality of the truck and the, you know, how long it's good for us, because I hate to go and spend 50,000 on something that's going to last us 3 years if we can buy something that's, you know, spend 200,000 and get something that's going to last us 15 years. So,
Right.
Just my comments.
Madam Clerk, who's the mover and seconder on this item, please?
Keeps working out in the right way because it is Rick Owen and Lad Shaba. So I have proposed wording here to receive the memo and that staff be directed to shop around and report back to council with options of vehicles and prices for consideration.
Are you in agreement with that, gentlemen?
I'm in agreement. I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Do we need it read again?
Sure. So moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that report number 2021-fire-002 entitled aerial fire truck be received, and that staff be directed to shop around and report back to council with options of vehicles and prices for consideration.
All in favor? Moved unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.3, update on Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund and Canada Healthy Communities Initiative. Bonnie Sackrider, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council. At last meeting, I did present some items to you for consideration in terms of some upcoming funding, and you'd asked me to come back with some more specifics to this meeting. The reason we're trying to do a fairly quick turnaround is for closing dates to make sure that we are eligible. So the first one is for the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund, and this is a fairly large fund in which the split is an 80-20 split, with 80% through the government and 20% to the municipality. One of the items that is required for approval of funding is a high level of energy efficiency, and they are suggesting 25%. So it's fairly significant in terms of the legwork that has to be done before we put the fund in or the case in. We do have to have a base case and a proposed case with current energy and emissions profile of the building. So this is something that we do need some help getting this information and then feeding it into a software program that the government has asked us to do so that they can see what the actual energy efficiency is. So what we've done at this time, we did have a building condition assessment completed in 2018. And a lot of the legwork has been done. So we've approached the same consulting firm that did that and asked them if they would be able to go through the items they've already identified. They've done site visits, they've seen our place, so we don't have to duplicate that, and come up with which items they believe will meet the criteria of the 25%. So once they've given that to us, we know which ones are best to move forward with this funding application. So I am awaiting that information. I did speak with them last week. They let me know they wouldn't be able to look at it until at least Wednesday of this week, and they'll have something for us probably within a week or two after that. So we totally meet. This is an ongoing intake, so we don't have a deadline. However, the government has said that the sooner you get your application, the more likely you are to receive the funding, because once they're approving it as the applications are coming in. So once the pot of money is gone, it's gone. So that's a bit of an update on that one. The second fund is the Healthy Communities Initiative. And last week you had asked me to look at what are some things that we could do for existing trail system. So we definitely sat down with our staff and did some brainstorming to try to figure out, with our Kinross Trail and with our cross-country ski trails and walking trails at the back of the complex, what are some things that we could do to enhance those? And we kind of really struggled, because if you really think of Kinross, which is the more used trail system, it's a beautiful, phenomenal trail system. We've got a playground, we've got a gazebo, we've got exercise equipment, we've got a fountain, we've got green space, we've got a playground. So we don't want to throw money away. This is 100% funding, so we don't want to miss the opportunity, but we want to make sure it makes a lot of sense. So I went back and I really looked at what's the criteria again. And one of the items that did jump out at me was the sentence, revitalizing outdated trails in rural areas for recreational use to increase the number of trails and avoid crowding. So we've done a little bit of a walk. So we do have man-made trails that already exist. They're kind of snowmobile trails / power line / someone's clipped something through the bush on municipal property or hydro easements that run from the existing cross-country ski trails, kind of like over the Harvey Kirkland Road, behind the cogen plant, and we could hook on to Kinross. We don't have any costing on this, so I don't have specifics for you, but staff that I have faith in are estimating probably between $30,000 or $40,000 with fill and signage. We could really enhance this trail system. So I am asking if you would reconsider something new. Would there be costs in the long term? There's always costs with everything that we expand on, but I really believe those costs over the next decade or two would be minimal, because what we would have to do is every year, obviously minimally when we open in the spring, have to make sure that it's safe. So if there's big holes, we have to put more fill in, and we want to make sure that there's wayfinding signage so that people who aren't familiar with it know where they are. That's really all we're looking at. We aren't looking at pavement or wood chips or anything like that. So that's one option. The other option, because we looked really closely into this, there's another pillar called digital solutions. And I spoke with our cemetery supervisor, and he said one of the items that he'd love to see there is some wayfinding kiosks. So it'd be electronic, and as people came there at any time, they can come and use the outdoor touchscreen kiosk to determine where their loved one is buried. Because we have staff there Monday to Friday day hours, but not evenings, not weekends, unless there's burials. And a lot of times our staff are actually out in the field. So if you come, there's no one in the office. So that's another option that we believe would fit into this pillar, a different pillar. And that we've got some preliminary prices, and it's probably around that $30,000. We may have to do a little bit more for shelter because we're in Northern Ontario, but we've been working with some local sign companies to work with us on that. So there's a couple of options there. So that was a lot of information for you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I would definitely, personally, I would like to support the cemetery. I do believe, as a family researcher myself, going out there and being able to find what you're looking for quickly. Because even over the years, if you haven't visited a loved one's grave site in a few years, you forget. The landscape changes and you lose them. So definitely I would support that. Go ahead. Sorry, Casey, did you have your, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Owens.
I'd support the one on the trails. I would add, if we can't do the one that connects over the power line and the Cogen Road, there's also, I don't know if you guys had a look at the one that runs from Carter to the complex. Along Rick's Trail, I think it is. It's, I mean, it's called a trail, but now it looks more like a walking path inside on the lawn there that would probably need some TLC so your feet don't get wet when you're walking on that one. Because I know in the early mornings with the dogs, like your shoes get wet on that one because you're walking directly on the lawn. So I personally think it's worth exploring this one without adding kilometers of trails to our maintenance log. I think little upgrades here and there would help or go a long way for those of us that walk a lot around town. Thanks.
Any further? Thank you. Councillor Owen.
Yeah, personally, we recently found out how much the trails in Swastika are used. We heard loud and clear how popular they are. In terms of recreation, we don't have a lot that the town provides to the residents of that section of town. And we have people from other sections of town going to Swastika to use those trails. So if we go with trails, I would like to see us provide a service to that section of town that's relatively low cost. We know it's well used. There's people like Mike Leahy and Ann Black that would be excellent to consult on which trails would be best to do. I'm sure there's other people in the community that could be consulted as well. The reason I'm suggesting that is because we have a whole cluster of recreation items around the complex. And I took my grandchildren to that little playground between the ball fields. We had a great time. But we're already servicing that area really, really well. And I'd like to see us, and it says rural, I can't say that word. And Swastika is more country than the trails. Like, I know it's in town. Like, anyways, that's just a suggestion. I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I think it's a way we could make the people of Swastika feel that they're getting a little more for their tax dollars. Feel more of the community.
Yes, Councillor Shaba.
Yeah, I just want to ask the director, how many trails are you aware of being Chapius? And I live in Chapius, and most of us, I don't have any trails to use, and we use Archer Drive instead, which is more or less a roadway. So I'm really in favor of maybe try to see if there are usable trails or old trails that will be enhanced so that people will at least stay off the road, going through Archer Drive from Chapius to the end of Main Street. So my question is, are you aware of any trails that are no longer in use? I do know for sure that some of the skidoo trails now, they're now more or less side-by-side or four-wheeler trails, so it's not navigable, it's not walkable anyways. So, but how many are there in Chapius to the best of your knowledge? And if so, what shape are they in? And is there something that we can maybe use some of these funds to enhance for the people in Chapius? I have to bring that up because we talk about people in Swastika and I say, hey, we're in the same boat too, we don't have a trail. That's my question, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Sackrider, I'll give you an opportunity to answer that, and then Councillor Owens, you're up next.
Thank you. Worship through you to council, and I'm sure Councillor Owens has a bit more information to add to what I know. I do know of the snowmobile/ATV trails, and you're right, they're very wet. There's some low spots, but there is that trail system, and there is a trail that also goes from kind of the back of the dog park. You can come out to the other side of Kinross Pond, and that was one of the ideas we had for that, connecting ski trails to Kinross to go down there. So there are some, and I'll certainly defer to Councillor Owens if he knows of some more.
Well, that's well forested too. They may not be safe, you know.
Yes.
No, Miss Sackrider is right on those ones. You can run very easily from the Comfort Inn all the way to the dog park. They're very wet right now for some reason, even though there's a lack of rain. But there's also a trail that runs from the Comfort Inn all the way behind Chappie that comes out, I'd say about 6 or 7 houses past our Boucher Performance Garage. And I think it's used as, there's a water line on it. There's fire hydrants all the way down. And you walk from the Comfort Inn, or in our case with the quads, all the way down. It comes out next to a gray duplex. And it's a trail, it's a sandy trail, and you can run the whole way down. So you do have trails in that part of town.
You just got to find them.
Quads are good for something.
I've been out here 20 years. I never knew that, Casey.
I've been there for 40 years, so.
Oh, gosh. Well, there you go. Any further comments or questions? So the mover and the seconder on this one?
Moved by Casey Owens, seconded by Eugene Ivanov. And just out of curiosity, Ms. Sackrider, when do we have to apply by this for the Healthy Community Fund?
It opened last week, and I believe the closing date is June 25th. So we've got a few weeks.
So Councillor Owens, currently the motion is just to receive. Is there one of the proposals that you wish to put forth as the mover?
I like Councillor Owens' idea of going to swastika. I don't want to say all because I don't think we can afford. Ms. Sackrider, do you have any recommendations as to which ones would probably be more feasible to look at right now?
I'm wondering if this would satisfy everyone's interest. So we've kind of talked about 3 different areas, and they all are probably going to need varying levels of work depending on how wet and how much fill it may need, if a culvert's needed, things like that. So it could totally change the cost. What I'd like to do is to put an application in for enhanced trail system in rural areas, mention those areas, come up with a figure that we think is palatable. It is 100% funding. If we get it, then we know, so say the number's 80,000, then we know we've got 80,000 to work with. What can we do for 80? And I could come back to you at that point and we can kind of have an idea of Chappie will cost 40 and Swass will cost 20 and Kirkland will cost 20 or whatever it is. And you can help me make a priority.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Excellent work on that one. Perfect. That's a good solution, Bonnie. It really is. Although I'm not getting what I want, but that's okay.
We will keep looking for funding for that because I think
there we go.
Excellent.
Okay,
go ahead.
We have a motion that will be moved by Casey Owens, seconded by Eugene Ivanov. Be it resolved that report number 2021-CS-012 entitled Update on Green and Inclusive Community Fund and Canada Healthy Communities Initiative be received, and that staff be directed to submit to the Healthy Communities Grant for enhancing trails in rural areas. And does that cover it, Bonnie, or should I add anything else? Just leave it at that. Okay, so to submit for enhancing trails in rural areas.
All in favor? Oh, sorry, Bonnie, go ahead. Sorry. Stop voting.
just before, just so I'm clear on the other fund as well, did you want me to come back to council once we have confirmation from the consultants of which of those criteria meet the 25% energy efficiency, or would you like to authorize a certain threshold now? Just wondering if you want me to come back or not.
Eugene, go ahead.
Ms. Sackrider, I understand that was for a project that would be for the next 5 years, right?
Correct.
So why don't you just apply for the bundle and just see what you can get? I mean, I'm not sure how much money is going to be involved there, but make a decision as to. I mean, I know that the roof on the complex was one of the projects that was almost $1 million. So yes. I mean, you have to grab some of that money as soon as you can. I'd rather spend 20 cent dollars than 100% dollars. So I grab as much as you can. When they come back and say that you can do it, I would say go for it.
I agree with you, Jean. That's money that we wouldn't be responsible for out of this year's budget anyway. We have until 2026
Yes.
to do our 20%. So I definitely agree with that. Casey, as the mover, did you want to add that as well?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Sorry, Madam Clerk, we're adding to your pile yet again.
That's okay. Could someone just help me, just so I'll add another line, that staff be directed to apply to the Community Buildings Fund, and then what did we think?
For community complex retrofits, that was what was in the original.
I think so, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So moved by Casey Owen, seconded by Eugene Ivanoff. Be it resolved that report number 2021-CS-012 entitled Update on Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Fund and Canada Healthy Communities Initiative be received. That staff be directed to apply to the Community Buildings Fund for community complex retrofits, and that staff be directed to submit to the Healthy Communities Grant for enhancing trails in rural areas.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.4, Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Update. Bonnie, you're up again.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to Council, this is just an update, so no decisions have to be made on this one. Just wanted to give you a bit of an update. This is a legislated requirement that we do have. So this came from the Police Services Act, that we are required to do a community safety and well-being plan. The due date is this summer. We have asked for an extension along with many municipalities around the province. And I believe Council has also expressed that. So we right now have engaged consultant through DSAB is the lead on this. And we're hoping to have this plan completed by the end of January 2022. So it's about a 9-month process. There is a lot of partnerships that will be involved. We do have a high-level advisory committee that has a representative from the DSAB, from the Timiskaming Health Unit, city manager from Timiskaming Shores, and myself. And then there will be also a multi-sectoral group that includes our police services board. We're going to make sure that we have Indigenous representation and Francophone representation. And we're just trying to make sure that we get very good representation from the entire community. So the encouragement that I have at this point is when you start to see, this is for the residents of Kirkland Lake, when you start to see information on websites, perhaps there will be mail outs, perhaps there will be Zoom meetings. When you start to see things about the community safety and well-being plan, please take a little bit of time and interest in it, because this is how everyone's voice can be heard. We want to make sure that Kirkland Lake is a community that people feel safe in, and that it is progressive as well at the same time. So this is everyone's opportunity. In terms of finances, there is one update to the report that I've given you to Council. So the financial consideration is indicated that it will be included in the 2021 capital budget for Kirkland Lake's portion of the plan. We just received word from DSAB. So because this project won't be complete until 2022, they are not going to be doing any invoicing until 2022. So there wasn't a line item in the 2021 capital budget for $20,000. That's the high end of this. That is not going to have to stay in the 2021 budget. That will go to 2022. And it's possible it will be less than the $20,000. It is our share, our percentage. And right now the initial cost is coming in at $43,600, which means our share would probably be around that $8,000. The reason I put it a bit higher is that that's with no extras that the consultant said may happen as they get into the investigation. And that's no ability for Kirkland Lake to tweak the plan to make it our own. So we're sharing this plan with 24 different municipalities. Some of the larger centers want the ability, whether they do it in-house or with the consultant, to make sure that we have the plan through the Kirkland Lake lens. Because there are differences between Earlton and Chamberlain and Kirkland Lake and Timiskaming Shores. Any questions on the plan or the process at all?
None noted. Okay, Madam Clerk, you're up.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CS-011 entitled Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan Update be received.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item 6.5, update to accessible customer service policy and accessible employment policy. Bonnie Sackrader, Director of Community Services.
Thank you, Your Worships. Through you to Council, we were chosen, lucky us, to be have a desktop audit done of our compliance with accessibility back in December. So there was a number of criteria that we had to give to the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility, and they were very pleased with our multi-year accessibility plan and our policies. And what they do is they look at everything, and then they give suggestions of how to strengthen your policies to ensure that we're meeting each small item of the Accessibility Act. So they've given suggestions on 2 of our policies. So they are included in your package, and the areas they've asked us to consider including are all highlighted in yellow. And this is definitely just taken directly from the ministry website. So they're very good because they'll tell you exactly what they'd like to see, and we just have to implement it in. So we're really looking at the addition of information on assistive devices, service animals, and support persons. At the bottom line is, if anyone with a disability is using any of our facilities and they come with either a support person or a service animal, we should be welcoming them with open arms. If there's a reason that the service animal cannot be there, then we need to provide other accommodations for them. So if we had a kitchen environment that we weren't able to allow a dog into, we'd have to come up with what's our other plan. In terms of the support person, basically saying, for example, if someone's coming to use the pool with a disability and they bring a support person, there should be no charge to that support person if they are there for the health and safety of the client. If they're there to have a great swim as well at the same time, then by all means, they pay the user fee as well. But if it's a true support person, then they are coming to any of our facilities without an additional charge. So that's basically what that is. The other item they asked us to add is notice of temporary disruption. So for example, at Town Hall, if the elevator was out of service for a day, that we're posting it by notice and on our website. And if we know of someone that uses that elevator on a regular basis, we're going to let them know so that people know what the accessibility problem is. I guess what the concern is in the built environment for accessibility. So those were the items on that policy. The other policy is the accessible employment policy. So the policy itself they felt was extremely well written and it worked well. What they asked us to do was to actually link directly to the policy, as well as put the example by paper, a sample return to work process. So we can actually take the word sample out. They've provided us with a sample. They've asked us to use this sample, and it is a fairly straightforward return to work process that we actually have, but it just wasn't in with the policy. So they've asked us to add that.
Perfect. Go ahead, Councillor Owens.
I'm not sure if this falls into this accessible customer service policy. Those lights downtown for the visually impaired, those chirping sounds that are going day and night. I notice I don't think they work at all downtown. Like I've played around with the P-tone waiting for the lights. There is no response from them whatsoever. And I know I've heard a lot of citizens complain about them, but then when you use the new crosswalk on Second, the sound is really turned low until you actually touch the pad on them. So we've asked this question before, and this has been over a year. Those lights have been installed. Have we figured out how to operate these things? And I'm not sure if you're in a position to answer because it just...
You're here.
I do not have the answer to that, unfortunately. I'm not sure if we have anyone from either planning or development services, or public works on the line that knows that. If not, I will look into that and certainly get back to you.
Well, okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that we have any expert in that area on with us. Yeah. Oh, yes, we do. There they are. A whole group of them.
There you go. As far as the audibles in town, I don't have any information on that at the moment, but I can look into it.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Any further questions or comments? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Jean Ivanov, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CS-010 entitled Update to Accessible Customer Service Policy and Accessible Employment Policy be received, that the revised policies are hereby approved, and that staff be directed to insert the updated policies into the corporate policy manual and to the website.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.6, pay equity update. Cassandra Young, Human Service Supervisor.
Thank you, Acting Mayor White, and through you to Council. So staff have been working very hard to prepare job descriptions. There are about 90 of them, as well as some other information to be able to provide accurate information to a consultant who will complete a pay equity, compensation, and job evaluation review for the entire corporation. So staff have started to draft an RFP. However, due to budget restrictions, staff are looking to procure these services of a consultant by the end of Q4 of 2021. By doing so, staff are able to, we can successfully budget for consultant fees and or retro payments and increases should there be any as a result of the review. So I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I am definitely able to try and answer those to the best of my abilities.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Shava.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Just for my own education, when I read the resolution here, you indicated that to include unionized and non-unionized positions. I will take it, I mean, where I work anyway is given that unionized positions are all equitable. I mean, if you're on step 5, you're on step 5. So can you, why do we have to include the unionized positions? Wouldn't the collective agreement cover that part anyways?
So thank you, Councillor Shaba. Through negotiations, which we've recently been doing, the labor rep has decided that it's best that we also look at those positions as well. It might not be from a pay equity perspective, but it might be from an overall compensation or job evaluation review. So they might not be included for the pay equity aspect, but
okay.
They would be included for the rest.
Thank you.
Councillor Owen.
Also, I believe that there may be cases when it comes to pay equity where a union job is equated with a non-union job in terms of value or however pay equity works. So I think you would have to do both in order to determine the pay equity scale, like whatever. I'm not up on labor language. Maybe Ms. Young can help me out, but all I'm saying is take, for instance, our front desk person at town hall may be compared with the front desk with somebody that's in a unionized position in order to determine pay equity. Does anybody understand what I said?
Yes.
Well,
No, this is definitely. Oh, go ahead, Glenn.
As a labor person, I really, maybe where I work is a little bit different, but I do know some of my support staff colleagues, they have their so-called job fact sheets, which essentially before you get that job, the description will be there, and then the pay scale will be there. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you enter that job, that is what you have in the collective agreement environment. So, but if it is, as she explained it, if it's just to compare this with, compare the unionized position or the pay with that of non-unionized, that's fine with me. But I would think that the collective agreement at the end of the day will kind of really carry, override from the union standpoint anyways, any other changes. But if the changes for the benefit, if it's better, well, I guess they were going to have to take it. They will take it anyways, right? Cannot be less than what is there, right? So that's my explanation.
Okay, Ms. Sackreiter, go ahead.
And just to give you a little bit more information, you're all right. Every comment that everyone has said. So we do have to be cautious because there is the Pay Equity Act, and the actual act itself does indicate if you have a unionized and a non-unionized environment that they all must be evaluated. And the other thing, Councillor Owen was absolutely right. It's very possible that you will have your comparators between union and non-union. And Councillor Schaaf is absolutely right. Once the initial comparison is done, then if you are to maintain pay equity, which we have an obligation as a municipality to maintain it, then the collective agreement should be able to maintain pay equity if you're making sure that you are looking at the agreement through that pay equity lens every time you do negotiations. So everybody had some slightly different points and all accurate, but there is an importance of looking at the population as a whole, not just siloing out whether someone happens to fall into a unionized or non-unionized position.
And sorry, Bonnie, just as a refresher, how long has it been since our pay grid and you've gone through the process? I remember you brought it to us and I can't remember, but it's been quite a few years.
It was initially done in 1992 for pay equity reasons. And although there have been attempts to maintain equity, it hasn't been looked at again through the male-female comparator lens. It's certainly been looked at in terms of employment equity as the grid has been maintained, but it hasn't been looked at again from the pay equity view.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any further comments or questions? Madam Clerk, go ahead.
By Casey Owen, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-HR-008 entitled Pay Equity Update be received, and that staff be directed to procure the services of a consultant to complete a pay equity, compensation, and job evaluation review for the entire corporation, including unionized and non-unionized positions, by the end of Q4 2021.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item 6.7, request to repeal and cancel one lease agreement and one encroachment agreement. Jenna McNaughton, Planning Administrator, Recycling Coordinator, and Data Manager, all wrapped into one. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, I do have a request to repeal and cancel one lease agreement and one encroachment agreement. The lease agreement, the owner at 69 Federal purchased the hunk of laneway off of us in order to remove the lease. So they now own the land, so we do need to cancel that lease. And in the other case, it was an encroachment agreement, or it was a structure that was located on part of the laneway. So the individual has removed that structure and is not intending to rebuild in that location. So we'd just like to cancel those two agreements.
Any comments or questions? Perfect. Madam Clerk.
Rick Owen, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-Dev-019M entitled Request to Repeal and Cancel One Lease Agreement and One Encroachment Agreement be received, and that staff be directed to present a bylaw to repeal the lease agreement at 69 Federal Street and the encroachment agreement at 152 Taylor Avenue.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.8, video closed captioning for accessibility. Megan Elliott, Clerk.
Thank you, Acting Mayor White, through you to Council. If you remember at the in January, we reported to you to discuss new accessibility requirements for our websites, for video specifically, that we need to have proper closed captioning capability, which currently through the YouTube platform, it's there, but it's not precise. So we wanted to look into some other options of how we could improve that. The communications coordinator specifically was doing a lot of research on this, and we found that since we are utilizing the Zoom platform for electronic meetings, if we upgrade our current account, that will only be an additional $70 a year. It will allow us to have very precise transcripts, as well as the capability to manually edit if we ever have to say, like, change something a little bit. So that's the best option that we believe to move forward with at this time. There is, as you can see in the report for other alternatives considered. There is other things through third parties or even through the iCompass software, which we will be diving into in the future for our agendas. So that might be something that we look into once there are accessibility requirements for actual live streams to have closed captioning, because right now it's just for the posted videos. So something just to keep in mind for the future, but as what we're looking for right now, just to ensure that our posted videos are compliant, we think that upgrading our Zoom account will be the easiest solution.
Excellent. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay, you can read the motion.
Ivanov, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that report number 2021-CLK-12 entitled Video Closed Captioning for Accessibility be received, and that staff be directed to upgrade the corporate Zoom account from Pro to Business to allow utilization of the Zoom audio transcripts.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you. Item 6.9, parking lot rental rate. Megan Elliott, clerk.
Acting Mayor White, through you to council. I was contacted by a company called Horizon Drive-In that wishes to host a drive-in movie night in the Water Street parking lot. With discussing other towns nearby that he has done these events in, it seems that there are a parking lot rental fee that's somewhere around $300 to $350. And this isn't something that we have currently in our user fee bylaw, so we wanted to bring it to council to see if for this event specifically, if you'd be comfortable for us to charge $325 plus HST, and then for us to further look into a more precise cost to include into the user fee bylaw. We also are working on an agreement with this vendor to complete, should he wish to continue moving forward and plan this event. And with speaking with Development Services, we're going to take their recommendation and ask for him to provide a site plan and propose extra parking details and just all those kind of factors to make sure we're organized.
Excellent. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Ivanov.
What a great idea. You know what? That parking lot back there doesn't get used very much, and that would be a great place to have a drive-in theater. I think it'll be phenomenal for Kirkland Lakers to have an opportunity to go to a drive-in. For those younger people who've never seen a drive-in, especially.
There used to be one in Dane.
Councillor Owen.
I think this is a great idea. I just wish I was about 50 years younger. But no, I think it's a great idea, and if it can come together, I think it's another entertainment opportunity for the people. So I think we should go for it. And the price is fine by me. And then, like Madam Clerk said, we can include it in our user fees next year and come with a specific price, because there may be costs that we're not aware of that we might incur. Clean up, who knows? So, yeah, go for it.
Absolutely. Yep, go ahead, Councillor Shaba.
Well, I just want to know if this organization, are they going to be checking in with the Temiskaming Health Unit to make sure that everything COVID-19 protocol will all followed? Because I suspect at some point people will be getting out of their cars to, I don't run around. So are they checking in with Temiskaming Health Unit? Are they going to?
Yes, so we're working with them through the agreement as well of what will be required. And so far from our conversations is that they have pre-approval that they can operate in anything that's like, if it's back to the color system in gray or better, but they are not able to do anything if it's the stay-at-home order.
Okay, thank you.
That's all proposed. And also just to note, it's just a one-day thing, so I don't want anyone to get confused with Councillor Ivanov's comment just because it sounded like it'd be a permanent drive-in, but it's not.
Perfect. Councillor Owen.
We could put in the agreement that they get a letter of approval from the health unit. We asked for a similar letter with the drag races.
Yeah, correct.
And that would that would give us as a council, something to show, to show the
Peace of
public that,
mind.
yes, we are doing it.
Yeah, and consistency too.
Yep. Any further comments or questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CLK-014M entitled Parking Lot Rental Rate be received, that staff be directed to finalize an agreement with Horizon Drive-In to utilize the Water Street parking lot on July 30th, 2021 for a rental price of $325 plus HST, and that staff be directed to include a parking lot rental rate in the user fee bylaw.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item 6.10, Provincial Offences Act, Inter-Municipal Agreement. Megan Elliott, Clerk.
Thank you, Acting Mayor White, through you to Council. So in the past, trying to think how to start this. So Provincial Offences Act, there is a committee that is hosted through Temiskaming Shores that they're looking for us to sign the intermunicipal agreement to continue on with hosting that for us per se. This is something that has been done before. It's noted that there was an agreement from 2000 that had never really been updated. So this is them taking that on to make sure it has proper language and just update which members and streamline all of that. So previously we did have an appointment of Councillor Owen and Councillor Owens on the committee bylaw, but it was recently removed through just discussions. We thought that this committee still wasn't happening, but as we see today, we move forward with this. We will also include them back on the list to have that appointment. Also within this report, it touches on a second item that they brought forward, that Temiskaming Shores has a policy that you can add certain charges from POA onto people's taxes. With talking with Treasury staff and just looking at that administrative side, we're not really sure how it all work and if it is something we want to get into at this time. So we're not recommending to opt in at the moment, but possibly we can look into it down the line once we see how it goes in other areas. So at this point, I'm just looking for direction to pass the bylaw that's presented later in the meeting for us to sign the intermunicipal agreement and have Councillor Owen and Councillor Owens back on the appointment to attend the committee meetings.
Any comments or questions? None noted. Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Eugene Ivanoff. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CLK-013 entitled Provincial Offences Act Intermunicipal Agreement be received. That staff be directed to present an executing bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the intermunicipal agreement with respect to the Provincial Offences Act. And that staff be directed to list Councillor Casey Owens and Councillor Rick Owen to the committee listings for the POA committee.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item 6.11, Police Service Board reconfiguration. Megan, please continue.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor White, through you to Council. Just getting to my page here. I wanted to bring this to you today in case you were not aware of what the Police Service Board has been discussing recently. So we received correspondence, maybe I think it was in March, I have to triple check, but yep, March, that they are looking for each detachment to submit comments on how they want their configuration of their police service board. So currently, Kirkland Lake has a police service board, but it only inhabits Kirkland Lake representatives and only really focuses on that. So all the other townships within this detachment don't really have representation or aren't really involved. So we went through discussions with each of the municipalities, as well as Beaver House First Nations would be included in this, and discussing with the police service board. The tricky part is that we are only able to submit one submission for the whole detachment. So I have to come to a conclusion with all the municipalities as well as the board on what we're going to do. So it was proposed from the police service board to discuss with the municipalities about asking for 3 boards to have the different areas have their own boards of discussions. But with talking with the municipalities, they were not in favor of that because they struggled to have community representatives for their existing committees already. So we also had a meeting with the municipalities that had members from the ministry on there to answer our questions. And they basically just said it would be up to the municipal representatives to come to a conclusion to submit one answer. So this submission is due in the next couple weeks. So my direction from all of these meetings has been that I will submit for one police service board for the entire detachment. And then there will be more coming down the line of what that means for the composition of it, what that means for who's the secretary and all the administrative features of it. So this is really just for information purposes. I just wanted to make sure you were in the loop.
So currently, the town of Kirkland Lake actually pays, correct, our representatives on this. So would each individual little town pay their own?
That's been one of the biggest questions that we've had is how does that administrative side happen? And the ministry answered us saying basically, so let's say if I continued being the secretary for this police service board and I had all these representatives from everywhere, they said that it could still just be Larder Lake would just pay their Larder Lake representative, Saskatchewan would just pay their Saskatchewan representative, and I wouldn't have to, go through our finance for that.
Yep, absolutely perfect. Go ahead, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I'm on the police services board, and in terms of this pay, I was surprised when I found out that council members on the police services board, and I'm going to make it's a public figure anyways, get paid $500 a year, because I thought a previous council had cut that out, but the previous council did not cut it out because on the police services board there are a certain number of people that are appointed by the province, and they get paid $500 a year to sit on the board. So the council of the day decided, well, it's not fair that they get paid and councillors don't. So I don't know how the new system will work. Quite frankly, I think we're all a little bit in the dark, but I would assume it would be up to the individual municipalities whether they want to pay their reps or not. I also want to say that I've been very pleased with the way that the current system worked. We've had direct access to the detachment commander. He's very good at answering questions, and it has worked well for many years for Kirkland Lake, I believe. Change is, I would have liked to have seen it stay the same, quite frankly. I suggested the 3 separate police boards because it made sense, because these other smaller communities have more in common with each other than they did with Kirkland Lake. Obviously, that's not going to fly, and I really didn't think it would anyways. But we have no choice. The provinces said this is what's going to happen, and all the municipalities. And when you think about it, all the municipalities, whether they have a contract with the OPP or not, are paying either directly or indirectly for that service, and do deserve a seat on the board. So it will go ahead. The formation, I'm sure Madam Clerk will have more to do with the actual final formation, which is probably the way it should be. And it's going to be what it's going to be.
Any further comments or questions? Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Moved by Ivanov, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that memorandum number 2021-CLK-015M entitled Police Service Board Reconfiguration be received.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item number 7, consideration of notice of motions. Councillor Owen.
Okay. I will cause the following resolution to be moved at our next council meeting. Be it resolved that staff be directed to contact our 911 service provider and the ONR to arrange for 911 operators to inform the ONR dispatch service when emergency first responder vehicles need to respond to an emergency west of the ONR tracks in crossing Highway 66 in Swastika. The ONR could then slow down or stop trains so emergency vehicles won't be delayed in responding to the emergency.
Thank you, sir.
And if I may just,
Go ahead.
that idea is not my idea, and I have to give credit where credit's due. Our former colleague, Dennis Perrier, his wife brought that idea to me, and I'm sorry, I get a little emotional because Dennis was loved by us all. But I think it's fair that Becky should get credit for that idea, and we can discuss it next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 8, introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws.
So just to jump in, Councillor Owen, that would actually go under notice of motion, which will come after, but I'll just take what you said and put it in the right header.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Considerations, not notice. My fault.
I jumped the gun too. Please don't make me say that all again, Megan. Madam.
I caught it. Sorry, bylaws. So first bylaw is moved by Rick Owen, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be ready first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-036, being a bylaw to permit the operation of certain off-road vehicles within the jurisdiction of the town of Kirkland Lake.
All in favor? Passed unanimous.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Casey Owen. Resolved that the following bylaw be ready first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-037, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an inter-municipal agreement with municipal area partners with respect to the Provincial Offences Act.
All in favor? Carried unanimous.
Moved by Lad Shaba, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-039, being a bylaw to repeal bylaws to establish leases and encroachments of certain town lands.
All in favor? Passed unanimous.
Moved by Eugene Ivanoff, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-040, being a bylaw to authorize and execute the collective agreement between the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake and Ontario Nurses Association.
All in favor? Passed unanimous.
And that's all the bylaws.
Questions from council to staff? None noted. Notices of motion. Megan will take care of that. Yes, I can go ahead.
Yes, in case there was anyone else.
Thank you. None, no more noted. Number 11, councilors' reports. Councilor Owen.
Yeah, I'd just like to report that I spent today via Zoom at the Phenom conference. There wasn't anything earth-shattering to come out of the conference, which I didn't expect there would be. But I will give a more complete report at our next council meeting, probably highlighting where the ONTC is headed. And there's 2 new satellite internet high-speed providers that I think people in the area will find quite interesting. So I'll include those in my report as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further reports? None noted. Item number 12, additional information. 12.1, tree removal request, 111 Tower Street.
Sure. Sorry, acting mayor, can we receive the councillor updates?
Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Motion to receive councillor reports.
Moved by Rick Owens, seconded by Casey Owens. Be it resolved that the verbal updates from members of council be received.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Sorry. Thank you, Megan. Item number 12.1, tree removal request, 111 Tower Street.
So we have a request here from a resident, and we also have the manager of operations and engineering with us to elaborate. There was a request to remove a tree at 111 Tower Street, but from the Public Works, and they noted that it is healthy, that they would not remove it. So they wanted to request council on their opinion, but they didn't formally want to speak to council. So I asked them to submit something in writing, and I got the letter there that's in front of you. And if I can request Mr. Fortin, however you say it's the man, to jump in and fill in some more information for us.
Well, it's a simple situation. We went on site at 111 Tower Street, and we did confirm that the tree is on our property, though it is in front of their home. There is hydro wires or telephone wires running through the tree, through the top of the tree, but that's the utilities company that come and trim the tree if needed, and if the homeowner requests it. The homeowner did mention that there was a crack in the tree, so I don't know if they were hinting at a safety issue, but the crack is it's not an important one. It is just from growing that it's stretched, and it's not a structural problem or anything like that. So we don't see anything wrong with the tree. It's not a safety hazard or environmental concern, so I wasn't able to say, yes, let's go cut down that tree.
Thank you, sir, for that information. Any further questions on this request? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Ivanov.
Yeah, was he requesting us to cut down the tree, or he was going to cut down the tree?
That's a good question.
Reading the letter, it sounded like he was going to take care of it, but
Well, that's the thing. Since there's a wire running fault, I wouldn't recommend any homeowner to undertake the cut themselves. I would definitely communicate with the utility company. But that's the thing. The tree actually belongs to the municipality. So that's where we came in to make a decision on whether or not it was logical or feasible to cut down the tree.
Yeah.
I suppose we could cut down any tree, but I don't have a justification for this one.
Yes, I certainly support the assessment on this situation. I drove past it, and it seems that it's budding and everything's okay. So yeah, I definitely support not removing it. Go ahead, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's hydro lines. Ontario Hydro does regular surveys of trees. In fact, they were quite annoying with me because there was a tree in front of my house and they kept phoning me to get permission to cut it down when in fact it was on town property. So I'm sure if it was a concern to the utility, they would have contacted, if it's on town property, the municipality and asked us if they could take it down. If it's on private property, they contact the homeowner if it's causing a problem. So I don't see any reason for that tree to come down, although unlike the acting mayor, I didn't drive by and look.
Go ahead, Councillor Owens.
A telephone line, not a hydro line.
Okay.
Any further comments? No action on that additional information is needed, just to receive.
I would like to add either the yay or nay. So as I'm hearing that we would say to not remove it. So I have it moved by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Lad Shaba. Are we in favor of adding to say staff be directed to not remove the tree as requested?
Gentlemen?
Well, Eugene?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. If the tree's healthy and there's nothing wrong with the tree, then it doesn't create a hazard. I don't see an issue with the trees.
I agree.
Perfect. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Moved by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that the tree removal request from Yvonne Fortier be received and that staff be directed to not remove the tree as requested.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item number 12.2, Addiction Residential Community Proposal, Opioid Task Force correspondence. Yes, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, I missed this. Are they asking for anything or is this just correspondence?
There is a, yeah, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
We are asking for a letter of support, so I've just put it forward to just receive the correspondence right now, but based on your conversations, if you do want me to say that we want to submit a letter of support, we can do that.
No, I want to declare pecuniary interest at this point because I'm part of the organization that's asking for that letter of support.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Ivanov.
Yeah, I fully support this letter of support for this organization. They've done a great job talking to the right people about doing something with the old Pinnaker. I think it's a great effort on their part, and hopefully they get the go-ahead and get this thing happening. It'll be great for our community and great for the people in the area. I think people not having to go all the way to Smooth Rock Falls to have some sort of treatment is going to be beneficial to our community. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Who's the mover?
So I have a move by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Patrick Adams, and I've added to the motion to read, be it resolved that the letter from the opioid task force requesting support for an addiction residential community proposal dated May 1st, 2021 be received, and that staff be directed to submit a letter of support to the KL opioid task force. I think we lost your sound, Acting Mayor. Yeah, but it might come back. Sometimes your sound goes in and out, but I think it'll come back.
That it's unanimous, and unless you can correct me on that.
You're coming back. There you go.
Okay, thank you all. Item number 12.3, letter from the Kirkland Lake Chamber of Commerce.
This correspondence received from the chamber that they wanted to have presented to council on an agenda that they didn't want to formally delegate or didn't see the need to formally delegate, but wanted to make sure you received it. So I currently, again, just have the recommended motion to receive, but if there's any further action, feel free to add that.
So personally, making them aware of our two bylaws, our property standards and community standards, as well as our CIP program, I think would be beneficial. They're asking about those types of issues. So if they wanted to know if we had a set action plan, of course we do not at this time, but we definitely have strong pieces of the puzzle that we can give to them. That's my opinion on this. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, we could inform them that we dismantled approximately 10 derelict buildings last year in an ongoing effort to make the town look better as well, because I think that was a major achievement.
Thank you. Councillor Ivanov?
Yeah, I so wish we could do spring cleanup, and I know the cost is the part that's the deterrent. I know that that's part of what they're asking for in this letter. you know, the $60,000 or $70,000 it costs to do that is not affordable at the present time. And I don't know if it'll ever come back. I think giving people these free tipping and giving the coupons has made a huge difference. But and I understand people can't make it to the dump because they don't have the vehicles or the equipment. But I sure hope we can do it someday. Who knows? Anyway, certainly not at the current situation.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Councillor Owens?
I was just gonna point out the voucher system that works really well. I've used mine this year. Takes 2 seconds. You give them to the clerk at or the attendant at the dump, and you're on your way. So it's a good program. It works very well.
Perfect. And I would like to say that I've noticed myself that the current market for residential sales is quite high, as well as the news of several different restaurants being created within the town. So this is definitely good news. So the assessment that nobody is coming to Kirkland Lake, I don't think that's 100% correct. If we're to believe, we just sold Heritage North as well. So I don't know if we're 100% deterring people from coming to our town. Yes, we'd like to do more, but as well, in this budget, we saw $100,000 for the demolition of one building and $50,000 in the budget for as many as that may do. So we're definitely making headway, but I would like to direct staff somehow to acknowledge this letter and let the chamber know that we are definitely as concerned as they are. Thank you. Any further comments or questions?
I've added some draft wording to receive the letter, and that staff be directed to ensure the chamber is aware of the relevant bylaws, CIP program, and landfill voucher system in place, as well as the number of derelict buildings removed in 2020 that all assist to address this issue. And it is moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Casey Owens.
Perfect. All in favor? Sorry, I only saw 2 hands. Everybody's kind of frozen.
I saw 6.
Thank you. Okay, passed unanimous. It's the Chappie use internet. Strikes again here. Item number 12.4, DSAB Englehart Inquiry.
Well, I'm up on this one? Oh, I guess I'm up on this one. So you just have an inquiry from the DSAB board just indicating that Englehart has passed a motion asking them to review a number of, or all of their areas. This is a common occurrence that happens with the DSAB and especially the smaller communities in regards to, you know, where the line is and where the line isn't. And this is an ongoing issue that happens. I know when I was there, whenever that was 4 or 5 years ago, we did move some of the households that were in Englehart, off of Englehart and into the surrounding communities. And this is another similar situation. It appears from our resolution from the town of Englehart, they're looking to ask that we do the entire district of Temiskaming and asking for, I guess, support to do that. Is that correct?
I think so, yes.
Yes, she thinks so. So
it's just information for you to receive that we wanted to put forth on the agenda.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments? None noted.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that the correspondence from DSAB in the town of Englehart be received.
All in favor?
yes.
I'm hoping it's, thank you. Passed unanimous.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Everybody's frozen. I can't see anybody moving. Item number 12.5, Highway 66 reconstruction Gull Lake protection measures.
We wanted to include this notice on the agenda just to spread awareness to our community, as we have posted this on our website, that there is reconstruction on Highway 66 and that the MTO, sorry, I'm just looking through here, that preventative measures will be put in place to ensure public safety and minimize the impact on the environment. If Will Haas is on the line, if he has anything else to add or if any questions. If not, we can just receive the notice.
Okay, receive the notice.
I'm here, it's just a little slow in the uptake. No, I have nothing to add. It's just an advisory, that's all.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Shava.
Yeah, I don't know how it's usually it, because I do a lot of ministry work in other towns, whatnot. Do you get the plan from them on how this lake will be protected? Because they have to submit a plan to the ministry on other areas, the watering plan, silt, sediment control, and all of that stuff. Do you have access? Do you get a copy of those plan, at least the one that relates to silt, sediment control onto the Gull Lake? And if so, do we have people to at least follow the plan and monitor it and to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, or do we just leave that up to the Ministry of Transportation?
They did submit to us an explanation for the turbidity curtain, how it will be installed, where it will be installed. They could not commit exactly to the dates as to when it would be put in and removed, because it will depend on other factors as well. In terms of following the progress of the project itself, I would recommend that we follow up with the EXP project manager, who is representing the ministry, for an update, perhaps at midsummer point.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I know the ministry has an obligation too, because it is their project, to make sure that there's adequate sediment control and all of that stuff that you're talking about. So we should be working alongside with them to make sure that, especially in this particular case where Gull Lake is the source of drinking water for the town of Kirkland Lake. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions?
No.
Go ahead.
Moved by Patrick Adams, seconded by Eugene Ivanov. Be it resolved that the Highway 66 reconstruction Gull Lake protection measures notice be received.
All in favor? Please do a head count for me.
Unanimous.
Thank you, sir. Item 13, item 13, closed session.
Moved by Lad Shava, seconded by Rick Owen. Be it resolved that council move into a closed session pursuant to section 239(2) to discuss 2 matters relating to land disposition and 1 matter relating to labor relations.
All in favor? Head count, please.
Unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
There we go. And go ahead, Acting Mayor.
Okay, matters from closed session. Change in recruitment committee. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
We have a motion moved by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the CAO hiring committee members be amended to remove Councillor Rick Owen and replace it with Councillor Casey Owens.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Confirmation bylaw.
Moved by Casey Owens, seconded by Patrick Adams. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time, numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. Bylaw number 21-041, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held May 18th, 2021.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Item number 16, adjournment.
Moved by Eugene Ivanov, seconded by Lad Shaba. Be it resolved that council adjourn the May 18th, 2021 regular meeting of council.
All in favor? Passed unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. That's me and you, Megan.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Night.
night.
Okay.